While the international food trade is growing worldwide, rather, authorities in each country are setting more regulations to ensure food safety and transparency for consumers. Across the world, genetically modified organisms (GMOs) labeling is regulated. Engineers design plants using genetically modified organisms of GMOs to be tougher, more nutritious, or taste better. However, people have concerns over their safety, and there is much debate about the pros and cons of using GMOs. Most currently available GMO foods are plants such as fruits and vegetables, yet there is some controversy over the benefits and risks of GMO foods rather. With the expansion of genetically modified organism crops globally, new regulatory requirements and consumer demand for choice and transparency increase the need for reliable requirements and consumer demand for choice and transparency increase the need for reliable GMO testing. This requires a solution that can screen, identify, and qualify GMO crops to ensure a proper control for accurate results to meet regulation, labeling, and consumer expectation. Hello and welcome. I am Anita Patrick, host of your program Governance Today. And joining me tonight is an expert of the GMOs and the regulatory processes to discuss ways in identifying GMO seed and how the technology will aid the agriculture sector and ways the seed sector can breed improved seeds for farmers for increased yield. He is no other person than Mr. SIMEON IGHODARO. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Okay, it's good to have you on set and for us to talk about the issues around the GMOs and the processes in regards to the pros and cons and the benefits to farmers. So far from my prologue, you heard me talk about how far it has been in across the countries, what it has been so far in terms of the regulatory policies and transparency for farmers to understand the benefits. Let's start with what are GMOs first.
Yes. Excuse me.
Welcome.
You correctly said it that GMOs worldwide are crops which has been engineered from the conventional crops, injecting certain genetic traits into them through biological technology, which is the science of modification that enables them to have certain advantages. In this case, you can say that the advantages are either in ability to protect themselves against certain crop diseases or crop insects. Like the cowpea, you've heard of the maruca. It's said that that insect can cause so much damage that on the long run, the crop yield becomes so low, the farmer does not benefit adequately. Therefore, he goes into hunger. If it were the cotton, the cotton bollworm actually has effect on the production of the cotton lint in such a way that the production is so low, the farmer does not benefit adequately from the production. Therefore, his income is so low, he can't provide his needs. There in the general terms, what are GMOs? GMOs are genetically modified, or you use the word engineered crops or organisms. Okay. It could be plant, it could be animal, in such a way that it is made to have certain traits from either another plant or another animal in such a way that it has protective advantage over the conventional ones.
Okay, it's good that we've laid it, but let's look at how we can push it out to the public to understand. With the number of adopting countries and the range of GMO crops expanding, does the distribution channels, the experts of farmers, the experts in technology stewardship make any sense to the companies in Nigeria?
Yes, it does. For now, Nigeria does not have any GMO directly in commerce. You know what I mean by commerce? It's not in trade. It's not been distributed to farmers yet. It has just only recently been approved for cotton and cowpea. to be certified by the Variety Committee of the federal government, so that when they have agreed with the suggested traits as established by research, for example, Institute of Agricultural Research, Zaria, carried out the research on cowpea. They've been doing it for more than 9 years, and to all purposes and intent, done all they could to certify themselves that they have done their best. Therefore, they took it to the Nigerian Biosafety Management Agency to agree with them that the research they have done merits the next stage of release, approving it, that it is safe adequately for the human, the environment, and the habitat, for them to take it to the Variety Committee to also investigate and tell them that it is safe or not for commercial release. None, the cotton and the cowpea has gone, no cowpeas beans, none of them has gone into commercial service for now. Even the Seed Council cannot produce it until this aspect of variety release approval has been given. There are other committees in place. Until all of them have done their part, cannot be released to the public. So right now, there's none in Nigeria being planted commercially. It's under, most of them are under research. The rest is under research, maybe some other things. But I know that only cowpea and cotton have been approved by Nigerian Biosafety Management Agency to be released to the Variety Committee, which is a federal government organ in regulating also the process to focus on whether it should be released for commerce or not. That's the stage where we are in this country.
Okay, that's the stage where we are in the country. But if you look at from what we had in our prologue earlier, we had the issue that the fact that these are new technologies that are supposed to help or aid the improvement of seeds for the Nigerian farmers to understand how they can get a return investment. How would one be able to identify a seed or a GMO product, for instance, just like you said, the cowpea, yes, is yet to be in the market. But how would they identify the one that is a GMO product or a GMO seed?
Because it is not in the commercial setup in Nigeria or in the market, it's not in the farming system for now, in the seed system, it's still being processed to get that approval that will enable you to get there. Because of that, what the Nigerian government has done is to put in place, based on the Katina Protocol that came out many years ago, a local regulatory agency, which is NBMA. You know what NBMA means? What is it? The Nigerian Biosafety Management Agency. They have a regulatory agency in place to monitor all of them, synergetically bringing together all arms: science, research, approvals, import, export, controls for feed and food feed and processing. You find that by the time somebody must regulate them, and that is the NBMA. So long as that is in place, they are taking their time. They have regulations in place. There are things you must follow and do correctly, whether a researcher or not. For example, when they are doing confined feed trial, you must follow the processes specified. If you've passed that stage and you are now doing commercial trials, you are doing the other stage of open feed trials, so that multi-locations are taken into consideration, you must follow instruction. Otherwise, the regulatory agency can lock you down. And once they lock you down, it's over. They have the power of government. They have the power of the National Assembly to do what they have to do to regulate genetically modified organisms, which is GMO. You can just call them GMs, genetically modified, or genetically engineered. But today, there are other aspects that goes into genetically modifying all these organisms. Some call them gene editing, some are called gene drives. There are what you call biosecurity. What is biosecurity? The ability to have the security of that plant or animal in such a way that you have the advantage as a nation. You refer to it in your prologue. As a nation, everywhere in the world, people are going genetically modified in such a way that they are interested in providing the wherewith for their communities, their countries, to have the advantage in food productivity. In other countries, for example, US in particular, they have their farms all under the care of GMO. But they also have organic farmers Nobody is stopping anybody from doing anything. They are only for NBME. They are regulating. If you get to the varietal release, they are also going to regulate the aspect of is this variety suitable or not suitable. When they've done that, after NBMA, you find that it becomes easy. The farmer can be confident when he plants. He will get this yield, this quantity, this income, maybe everything being equal.
Okay.
According to the economist.
Okay. In all of this, the whole essence is to see how diversification of the nation's economy can come in through the agri sector. Let's look at the small scale holder farmers, or that's the rural farmers. How do you take this message of a new technology to aid them understand the essence of using improved seeds? Because this is technology to improve the seeds, but it's yet to be in the market. But let's look at improved seeds to aid return of investment. How do you pass the message back to these local farmers?
The small scale farmer, the peasant farmer, those who are the lowest part of farming, don't they buy seed to plant? What the government has done, in order to leave the game open, that's why you have regulation.
Okay.
And what the regulatory agencies have done, the National Nigerian Biosafety Management Agency, under the able leadership of our brother, the DG Chief Executive, Dr. Rufus Ebegba, has been able to put in place regulations and guidelines. What are these guidelines doing for us? They enable us to know, first and foremost, the research done in the various research institutes. There are more than 20 research institutes in Nigeria. Yeah. They have done some of them have done certain researches that require going straight to the market. We use extension mechanism. You know, there's agri extension. When you have done your part, you open up by extension the education of those outside your domain. There's those not in agri facilities, those not in schools or research facilities, those not in the universities. You use the extension officer to reach the farmer. These extension officers must be trained in such a way that they know exactly what GMOs are, why you should do this or do that. And when the time comes, there is a law a guideline under the Nigerian Biosafety Management Agency. Okay. I use the word NBMA from now on. Okay. That guideline says you must label them before giving them out, whether being sold or being marketed. You must label any GM crop before being sold to the farmer to crop. If I knew, I would have brought something I brought from the seed conference yesterday. Or I brought one seed for you. See how it's properly labeled, and you are told the advantages of that species, the variety I mean. In the NBMA, they refer to all these things as events. There must be a reason. When it gets to the varietal committee, I'm not a member of the varietal committee. I don't know how they refer to them. These events are what translates after research into crops which are given through the seed council. They're not going to go anywhere. It has to go through the proper network. The seed council is not a small organization. They will properly raise these crops so that they are doing the right thing before releasing it to the farmer. But then, all these things we are doing, like what you are doing now, is to educate the public. Anybody listening now in on our discussion will know that GMOs are coming. So some farmers are already asking, we hear this cowpea can do this. It's good against Maruca. Give it to us. It's not in a rush. The necessary thing has to be done. Wait. It cannot go into the market maybe until around 2020. Okay. So the processes will be followed. The farmer will be informed, educated, and extension officers go from place to place throughout the country to educate our Nigerians. And once they do that, if it is 1,000 naira seed you can buy, you raise your crops. According to the law, you must label them as to bring them to the market, unless you are the only one going to eat it. But if you are not the only one, once you label them, properly schedule the activities you can do and what you cannot do, and you say it's GMO produced or GMO product, the person buyer will take his own decision. Nobody's going to force you. Okay. If you are hungry today, they say you should not eat bread because of diabetes, because of this type of this thing. If you are hungry today, will you not buy bread? If where you are going to eat the normal food is very far away, you will buy bread. Just take a little. It assuages your hunger. As a nation, for us to have food security appropriately positioned for us to survive, we are talking of how many millions from in a few years' time. Who's going to feed them? who is going to provide access for them to have food, which otherwise they wouldn't have. You talk of China, you talk of India, these countries are growing expansively. They also have their problems. We must plan to overcome our problems from today, so that by tomorrow, those problems do not overwhelm us.
Okay, if we're looking towards planning and not allowing the problems to overwhelm us,
Yes.
how prepared are even the seed companies to ensure that there's food security on the side of the farmers? Because when they have good or improved seeds, definitely the food security that we're looking forward to will be attained.
You say how? Let me ask you. Were you at the venue yesterday of the seed conference?
Yes,
Seed farmers conference? What were they saying? They are already thinking and talking about plant varietal protection. What is plant varietal protection? They are talking about how to protect the varieties that come from plants which have been modified, whether through conventional or unconventional means. And what does it inform us? They are planning already that, they even said it, more people should come into the system of foundation seed production. What is foundation seed production? From what somebody told us, they are able to produce for farmers to buy. And more people are coming in. You saw how many foreigners came in to participate in the conference. They are interested in the Nigerian market. It's the next big thing. If you can make a good farm that produces seed for others to buy, seed is seed. I'm not talking of grain. Those who farm grain, they know what they are doing. But for seed, you have to be scientifically, agriculturally minded in such a way that you are able to produce with least stress what is actually required by the farmer. And once the farmer buys from you, it's improved. He buys again, he will not stop coming to you. It's just like me and you now, we are Nigerians. If you leave this country and go to any country where you are able to eat Nigerian food, will you leave that place? They will say, come and eat bread, spaghetti. You say, excuse me, I'm coming. You just dash there. You see, then you want to eat, you eat. If it is amala, you eat. If it is plantain, boiled plantain, you eat. If it is fried dodo, you eat. If it is beans cooked in our natural way, traditional way in Nigeria, you eat. You feel so capable. Remember in those days when Nigerian footballers were going to play football, they will say they will give them special food. What is it? Akpu. If it's not akpu, they give them the ones that eat malaria, they give them malaria. And when they enter the field and they are playing as if they took certain special injection, it's not true. They just ate their normal food. Haven't arrived with ogbono, egusi, vegetable soup, or just vegetable. When they are moving in the field, you think a hurricane is coming. The type of what's his name? Mathematical Odegbami in those days. They eat, but not too heavily. The day before they would have eaten heavily, but that day they eat light, but the energy is still there because they have eaten something that is local to them. Food security is going to be like that on the long run. Once we have adequate seed from the foundation providers, seed providers, producers, farmer can always go there, buy what he wants, enjoy cropping because he knows the yield is going to get is adequate.
Okay, having talked about the whole issues, let's have this clip from this international seed experts where he talked about the need for Nigerians to have an improved seed that will aid yield, good production. When we come back, we have more to throw to you, so stay with us.
Bringing quality seed to farmers, but we know also improved varieties, you need to breed them, you need to produce them, and you need to trade them. That's one part. And I think here is clearly what we are looking for is also that we have an increased breeding program also from Nigerian seed companies here in Nigeria. And we have more and more also perhaps foreign companies coming to Nigeria to invest here. We need perhaps more diversification also from the breeding programs. And therefore what we discovered, one of the first important things is the regulatory frame the seed sector needs to go in a country or within a country that the seed sector can scale up.
All right, there you heard it from him. So much to benefits from improved seeds. If only the seed council or the seed industry in Nigeria can take advantage of the essence of introducing improved seeds. And I still have my guest with me. Yes, we were discussing so much about these issues, but what I'm concerned is if the sector needs to do better, the Nigerian sector, that's the seed industry. You heard from the expert there, where he mentioned there are protocols, there are basic things one needs to do. So if you're to speak to a farmer today, what would you tell them, or what would you tell the seed council or the seed industry to do differently to be able to get the farmers informed, rather, just like we have in the outside countries, we have in the US to be specific. They believe in introducing new technology to aid farmers get and return investment, because the seed companies have been there for over 200 years.
Agriculture started from the Garden of Eden, if you remember. Eve and Adam were told, eat of this, don't eat of this. I am not God. I'm only referring to the fact that plant has been with man right from creation. It has sustained man. On the other hand, if you want to improve what you have, what do you look for? You look for those who know. Now let's come to something we have not discussed, which is antagonist of GMOs. They are people who do not know enough to defend it. Instead, they attack it. On the other hand, you ask yourself this singular question: who are the experts in agricultural development, either of seed or farming systems, storage systems, transportation, or marketing? There are people, various people with various. You are in information technology right now. Your expertise is bringing to bear the dissemination of information to those out there. Why are they needed? Or rather, why are you and your services needed? Because if it doesn't come one way, it must come another way. If it doesn't come that way, there must be a third option to ensure that somebody else gets to know you are in the knowledge industry, passing information in such a way that those who do not know gets to know. You have asked, what is the way forward? When we were at the seed conference just yesterday and day before yesterday, I remember somebody referred to it and said, the way forward cannot be changed. First, the NASC, National Nigerian Agricultural Seed Council, has put in place what we call a seed tracker. Is it seed tracker? Where they can track anything you bring. Their variety. There's a name. I think seed tracker. Yes, where you can track it, whether you're in Nigeria or not. In the general was in the cloud, through technology of science of internet, email, and internet services. You can put your information. You know the seed you want or the seed you are buying. You search it on the internet whether it was appropriately registered or properly released. And when it has been done, you now say, yes, this is the seed I'm looking for. You now go and search and buy it from where you're supposed to buy it. That's one. The National Nigerian Agricultural Seed Council is the organization government has put in place to ensure before seed goes to the farmer, it is properly investigated, tried, and shown to have met the standard or the prerequisites that has been identified with it. What do we need to do to improve beyond this? Our extension officers need to be properly retrained. Okay. Right now, they are not properly fully trained. They need to be retrained on what GMO stands for and what it can do or cannot do. One. Two, we don't just use anybody for extension service. To use appropriate personnel, they have to come from proper education, with a proper educational background, and be properly mobilized, either by proper salary payment or transportation, because the appropriate peasant farmer that has been feeding Nigeria over the years are deep in the villages. Most of them cannot come to the city for even any education. They need it to come to them. So extension workers need to be properly retrained and financed to do their job. 3, above all else, the scientist has to open himself up for proper identification with this product. Professor Isiaku, I will mention him here, who has been championing the activities of research at Institute for Agricultural Research at Zaria, is always bold to state that they have done their part of the research and they are convinced that genetically modified cowpea, which is called BT cowpea, is good for Nigeria. Not just good, they have tried it in a few multiple places and said yes, it can grow anywhere and is as good and has no adverse effect against the local variety. Not only that, he has identified himself, his profession, his ability to do the research, and with the resources at ABU, able to project the services he has rendered to Nigeria as worthy. And what is that worthiness? That the services of investigating cowpea, BT cowpea, there's a specific event name they call it, has come of age for us to go for testing, for approval by the national NBMA. And the NBMA, having approved, sent it. We now agree for it to be sent to the varietal release committee. It's a special committee for it. But in the NBMA, before anything is approved, the National Biosafety Technical Subcommittee must look at that event. The event means the way it was handled, the way it was investigated, the type of confined field trial they did, and all those things are investigated by the people. Most of them are professors in their field. I've been opportune to observe. I was not a member of the committee. I've been opportune to observe how they do their job. They are very thorough. Every word is looked at. Every event is analyzed. Then they will bring it back to the NBS, which is the National Biosafety Committee, NBC, National Biosafety Committee of NBMA. And that's another group of experts. This time we're talking of about 10 or so, who will sit down and look at this document. Does this research miss this? Has it been replicated somewhere else? Can we convincingly compare their output? And if they do, maybe they recommend then to the appropriate authorities to approve. Who I don't know whether it is the DG. I think it's the DG also, Chief Executive of NABMA.
Okay. All right, let's look at in all of this, because what we're looking forward to is food security for the nation, and how. Let's look at are there benefits to recapitalization to farmers? Because in all of this, we've mentioned seed. With improved seeds, you can have good yields. But what about the funds to boost these farmers? Are there benefits to recapitalization to farmers to enable them?
Let me ask you that question again in a different form. We are Nigerians.
All right.
We cannot run away from facts. In less than 10 years, rice has become a Nigerian food crop that has broken the barrier of production. They have not gone GMO yet, but they have broken the barrier of production. How? Anchor borrowers program, government financing, different type of intervention programs were put in place by the federal government through the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, and at the same time the Central Bank of Nigeria. And at the same time, the farmers were encouraged. How were they encouraged? If they can do it for rice, any other crop can come of play. Don't forget, Egypt, from what we have been reading, used to be the highest producer of rice in Nigeria, in Africa. Nigeria has overtaken them. How many years in difference? Between 5 years. Within 5 years. What I'm trying to say is that if it can be done for rice, it can be done for any other crop. And once we're able to overcome these obstacles, one at a time, the fund must come from somewhere. I'm sorry to say. If the local farmer in the villages, for example, I know recently that IITA is trying to do a special research on cassava production. Do you realize that with cassava produced at such a very high productive advantage rate, we will be able to produce starch for the pharmaceutical industry, foodstuff for the Nigerian populace. Foodstuff, there's starch for industry, there's starch for consumption, there's gari, there's akpu, all of them come from cassava. So if we can have a good production from improved cassava cultivars, are we not going to be happy as a nation when we can export gari anywhere in the world? Because they say, oh, you produce gari, you now start hearing Jebu gari. Oh yeah, gari. You are a woman, you should know now.
All right, it's interesting to know that aside the oil sector, the agricultural sector can also give us value. That's the essence. The government is actually pushing for that.
Yes.
We've been talking so much about GMOs and improved seeds and what it should do in terms of return investment for farmers. And don't forget the phone lines are open for you there on the screen. You can call in, make your contributions. Let's hear from you. What do you think? Because of course we know there's a controversy on the whole issue of the GMOs. We want to hear from you from what we've been discussing so far. Yes, we still have much to talk. Let's look at, aside the whole GMO issues,
Yes.
we're looking at food security. What is your assessment of the Nigerian agricultural policy generally? How would you assess it?
I have not seen the policy, so I cannot talk about it.
Okay.
But what I know is, talking about food security, if you look at the home, any home, the rich man's home, the poor man's home, what is it that is so essential that you cannot let go? It's food. Therefore, the rich man can have bags and bags of different types of food in his storage because he has large storage. The poor man will need to have small quantities of whatever he eats always available. Then you are secured. That's how I just look at food security. But talking about the Nigerian agricultural policy or food policy, I will beg to stop there. I have no. When I see it, I will know how to address it. Let me see the document first. Do you have a copy?
We'll get it across.
Good.
Well, let's look at, okay, you've talked about food. Food is the essence, whether in the rich or in the poor home.
Yes.
But how would the government or do better to improve the agricultural sector? Yes, you don't have the policy, but you should be able to prefer what
I
you
didn't
think.
The Nigerian government has a policy.
Yes.
I
You've
don't
not seen
know.
it.
I've not
Yes,
seen it.
that's what you said.
But let me put this across. A few years ago, when I was still in school, we discussed food storage. Food storage is more than just having silos placed everywhere in the world. But we're talking Nigeria. Therefore, strategically, the food storage system in Nigeria must be specific to the food endemic to that area. That means coming from that area. If, for example, you are from Lagos, what is the food type in Lagos that needs to be stored well, that can stay a long time without getting spoiled, so that when we have shortage, we go and pick from there. In Benin, what do they have? In Port Harcourt, what do they have? In Enugu, Owerri, Kaduna, Kano, Sokoto, Maiduguri. All of us have different types of food we are known for. You store them in that area in large quantities in such a way that they will not get spoiled. Now, you have heard of bio pesticide or bio insecticides made from biological materials that are not synthetic, and they can produce protection for this crop, seed or grains once produced. Again, we need silos. I didn't discountenance it. We need silos which can store food in large quantities over a number of years. If you come closely to analyze this agricultural sector in Nigeria, how many communities know how to provide additional advantage for their crops before it is sold? How many communities know how to provide, for example, let's start with the people making trouble in different places, the cow heads. How many of them make milk, pasteurize it in such a way that it can store for a long time, so after 2 years they can sell it, it's still looking fresh? But the Obama has made milk for us in tin. Why don't we go ourselves to give additional value to what we produce, so that if it is gari, it's fried in such a way that it's sealed. You know, they're sealed.
Yeah.
Nowadays they put gari in a sealed small plastic bag. You drink it. You know what they do? They add a little granite on top, seal it again. They add a little sugar or salt somewhere. It's your choice. You just buy it like that. I've seen it. You just buy it from the supermarket. Carry your cup, carry water. If you like gari, you drink.
Okay, let's pick this call and then we'll get back to that. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Okay, my name is Isong. I'm calling from Vida.
Okay, I cannot hear you well, except you turn down the volume of your TV set.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, let's talk now. What's your name?
My name is Isong. I'm calling from Vida.
All right, song from Bida. Go ahead.
Okay, is the program live?
If you're on live, you won't be talking to me. Speak. What's your contribution?
Okay, I have a question for the guest speaker there.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's not listening.
I'm listening. Go ahead.
He's listening to you. Go ahead.
Okay. Actually, he mentioned the antagonist of GMO.
Mm-hmm.
Are you listening?
Yes, I
Go
am.
ahead.
Okay, I'm not talking about the issue of health or the other issues, but how about the issue of biodiversity pollution, most especially when it has to do with open pollinated varieties?
Okay.
Yeah, and the issue of GMO, it has to do also with there's definitely going to be a patent on the seed. Okay,
Patent.
are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the technology was done by somebody, and somebody needs to make gains from this. So there's definitely going to be patent, and patenting seeds means costly seeds. We consider the situation where the prices of seeds are very getting so high, because it has happened in other countries.
Okay.
For instance, in India, BT cotton, the price of BT cotton seeds increased for over 4,000%. And which is being linked to the issue of suicide and farmer suicide in India, in BT cotton.
Okay.
Okay? So, Nigeria, are we considering the situation where we have costly seeds that even farmers cannot get they cannot get price, cannot get the seed, because they have to be patented. And most of these seeds, farmers have to go to the market every year. These are some of the issues that even the government are not talking. The issue whether the GMO product is good or not, those debates are normal, there. But at the nitty-gritty that the antagonists of this technology are asking every day. The issue of high cost of seed, the issue of pollution, most especially in open pollinated varieties, affecting thought about and so on.
All right.
Other countries, we know of other countries also, they are affecting and so on. They are affecting GMO everywhere. But when it comes to, for instance, in India, there is no GMO food in India. What they have is GM cotton, and cotton is not food. It's not as food, it's as food. So
Okay.
my own concern is we should be careful on how to let him answer this.
Okay. All right, let him answer so that you can get your response. Thank you so much for calling us. This one from Bida. Okay, yes, you've heard him there. Let's get your feedback on him.
Yes. I'll put it this way. Let's start with he said the antagonists are worried because of the possibility of pollution of our biodiversity. Look, the people who investigated did what we call in vitro. They closed the investigation room. You know what we call production. Okay, I'll get to it. When you build a house for plants to grow without escaping, you seal it. To go in, there's a protocol. The protocol is that after the investigation, you will know whether if you cross-pollinate it with conventional seeds, plants, it will affect it or not. They investigated all those things. Therefore, the possibility of it causing problem for the Nigerian ecosystem is not there. It has been investigated and found that it is not harmful. For human health, it has been investigated and found that it's also not harmful. Otherwise, NBMA will not pass it. If it has any harmful effect on the environment, the habitat, or the human, NBMA will not pass it.
Okay.
That is that. For patenting, he should realize that the various agricultural facilities, institutions of research in Nigeria are government-owned. Most of them are government-owned. The one that was done on cowpea and cotton were done by IGHODARO, Zaria. Okay. It's a government facility. And after the financing was done, I think AATF and other organizations are involved. They participated in the financing. They are what you call international donors who participated in the investigation in such a way that after financing, they are encouraging Africa to be self-sufficient in food production. So what do? They know that they are not going to get money back. The professors and various research officers who participated in the investigation, they were paid salaries. Eventually, what I'm trying to say is that this thing belongs to Nigeria already.
Okay.
The extra cost involved was financed by somebody. On the long run, patenting is not necessary. It's an open license sort of thing once it is approved for commercial release. Right now, you cannot do that. You cannot just take it and use because it still belongs to the researcher going forward one step at a time, following the protocol. It talks about GMO products, good or not. What will I say? It has been said over and over again. People who do not know think science is useless. But science has brought us from barefoot to shoes, shoes to bicycle, bicycle to motorcycle, motorcycle to cars, cars to aeroplane. And now we talk of weapons of warfare. Yes, let me put it this way in very clear terms. We rely on science for the next phase of human living. Science will always be there. It will keep helping us as we use it well. For those who want to misuse science, God forgive them.
Okay. All right. Interestingly, time is really not our friend, but I'll just take this last call and then just hear in 1 second. Let's hear your what's your name? Where are you calling from? Okay. All right, and that's where we have to leave it. But before you go, let's hear what's your take in the whole thing in just 2 seconds because of time.
My take?
Yeah. In the whole of our discussion today and from what we've said so far.
It's been interesting discussing. But more importantly, if as a nation we do not use science for our benefit and follow the dictates of the protocols of science, we are doomed.
Okay.
Nigeria cannot say they want to isolate themselves from the world. If the population is growing, it's because they have good health. If the population is expanding, it's because they have good environment. If the population is appropriately focused on surviving, then food security based on scientific ingenuity and progress must be pursued with vigor.
Okay, thank you so much for being our guest this evening.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you talk much on this. Well, there you have it. So much has been said, so much for you to learn, so much for you to also take in and see if there's something you can do about it to change your orientation, because you heard him there. Science is the major force. If you understand the rudiments and the ways it works out, it should go a long way in securing food for the nation. That's why we have to leave it tonight on the program. Join us same time tomorrow where we bring you another bumper edition of the program, Governance Today. My name is Anita Patrick. Many thanks for watching. Do enjoy your evening.